Pushing Limits, first episode. Let's do it.
Yeah, episode number 1, Pushing Limits. It's been a long time in the making. I got myself all this stuff for Christmas, and I finally unboxed it in March.
Yeah.
And just started playing around with it, and then finally just took everything out, and here we are on a podcast.
That's sick, man. I love it.
Yeah.
And I love that you thought of me for the first episode, because that's a huge honor.
Well, we go way back to Oracle, right?
Yeah, we met at Oracle, which was great. I feel like half of Austin, Texas is definitely from Oracle. It feels like college 2.0.
Let's take a step back. So how did you get to Austin after college?
Yeah, it was a no-brainer for me. I thought Austin was the coolest city. And then Oracle was kind of like this sounds so lame that Oracle was kind of my dream job, but my dad worked at Oracle in the 90s and early 2000s.
Okay. And
selling ERP software back then, it was like hotcakes, man. Like they were crushing it. His whole team went to club every year. And I kind of idolized this software sales mentality. And I actually I felt like I already knew a lot of what good looked like and had built an incredible network. Like I was talking about this on Tom Alamo's podcast, that I had such a good network of software sellers already, and they had moved on to be VPs elsewhere now that it's 20, 30 years later, that it really made sense for me to jump into this ecosystem.
Right.
And it really gave me a leg up, and I really like talking to people and creating relationships. And I had a natural sales mentality. So I actually thought I was going to be a doctor when I was a freshman in college, and I quickly changed routes to marketing after the first semester. That was quite the challenge, doing pre-med plus football. It's kind of impossible.
Right.
So I changed to marketing, and I was like, whew, this is a lot easier, man. This is a whole different beast. And I was actually interested in it. So that's how I knew, hey, maybe there might be something here.
What was the most unexpected takeaway that you got from your experience at Oracle?
Whew, man. So I'm probably 24 at the time. I have 3/4 of a year of sales experience. I don't count the BDC year. That's kind of the training year.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of this as I'm in the rep role. I'm closing business on Alex Baird's team. And things are going great. I'm closing a lot of deals. I'm way ahead of my quota. This was the net new side of the house. And Oracle Cloud was very new. So our quotas were actually pretty small. It was an opportunity to go crush it, really crush it.
Yeah.
But they asked me to lead this net new or greenfield team meeting where all of the net new reps, I would do a training along with 2 other people, as Matt Mitchell and Jessica Harper, because we were doing great. And at one point I was training teams, groups of people up to 80 people. I was stretched in that experience, right? And I didn't expect that. That's not on the job requirements, but I was able to squeeze that out of that experience, which was great.
It was like going from safety to linebacker back in college, right?
Yeah, yeah. Which, unfortunately, that story didn't end as well. But I think my meniscus stretched a little too far for that one.
Yeah.
If talking about stretching, but yeah.
So, Zach, when you first got here, you were talking about a transformational weekend you just had. Can you kind of let the audience know what that was?
Yeah, man, I was fired up after this weekend. I got invited by Alex Kramer, who's the founder of Alluviance, but he did an immersion called Arise. It focuses on, with sales professionals. We talked about, they brought in sales leaders to teach us some things. There was 30 people there at an Airbnb. But we also focused on the inner game, kind of mental clarity, one of my biggest keys or takeaways that I took was talking about vision, which I'll talk about in a second. And then also just building a community. He wanted to build a sales leader community, and he's kind of choosing Austin as his home base, and he's moving here from New York City. But it was really cool. We got to learn how to meditate from a Buddhist monk. We did cold plunges. we did a whole bunch of stuff. We did breath work, we did yoga, there was a lot of just opening up with everybody and being willing to share and kind of get over some of maybe something that's holding you back or your insecurities. For me, it was, I am pretty anxious, right? I got a lot of anxiety. I started a company. I have a baby on the way in 6 weeks. So you could imagine there's a lot that goes on between my ears on anxiety. Yeah. So one thing that I resonated with is he said, hey, the purpose of a vision is not so that you achieve it. The purpose of a vision is who it makes you today, right? So if you break that down, you're thinking, all right, what are qualities of someone that I want to become, either myself in the future or qualities. I kind of talked about role models that I've had. What are the qualities that make them great? How do they treat their bodies? How do they have diets? How do they treat other people? How are their relationships? Well, if you think about it and you pluck the best characteristics of everybody, why can't you just be that person today? And that was really exciting for me. And it gave me a lot of confidence and shed a lot of anxiety because now I'm able to approach it a lot differently. I don't want to have imposter syndrome like a lot of entrepreneurs have, right? I want to be very confident and show that confidence, and it's going to show to my customers and potential investors and all of that. So that was a big takeaway for me. It's funny, like I'm not typically like the big funny clown, but I felt myself like opening up and not being so shy and like showing a lot of humor. And that, like, at the end, like you sat in a circle and everyone said like what they really appreciated about you and giving positive affirmations and all of that. And man, it was such a great experience. I'd highly recommend it for sure. But like this week, I just felt like charged, you know?
Yeah.
And at the end of it, I committed to 365 days of meditation in the morning, which is very cool. I'm on day 6. But so far, so good. But what a great way to start your day. What a great way to set your intentions for the day and not just roll out of bed at a later time and what do we have today? You know, like that's not a great way to attack the day, you know? So I just felt myself a little bit more confident, a little more pep in my step this week. So that was exciting. That definition of vision, I was like so passionate about that. I love that, right? Because I was always thinking like, I had like a lot of what if mentality, and I think that's bullshit. Like if you're thinking what if, like you could think what if all day long, and you're going to become the most anxious person alive.
What made you push your limits and start your own business?
Man, it was tough. So hard. The hardest part was I wasn't running from something shitty, right? It was actually the opposite. I had probably my best year I've ever had at Oracle. But I saw this group of people. One of my co-founders, my best friend since I was in the 4th grade, Lee Rogers, which is crazy that we actually ended up starting a company together. And then we found this through another friend of ours. We got introduced to Peter Katzos, great tech mind. He got a master's in entrepreneurial studies at Babson. So we were like, all right, we got the team. This is a great, diverse team. Like, we play off each other really well. And Lee and I were talking a lot about the gaps in the market from a sales tech perspective, right? Like there's so many different tools out there and experiences cobbled together with manual exercises that you have to do. And then you just got to figure it out how to close quota, right? Or like chop away at that quota. So what we wanted to do was take a lot of those manual experiences and put it into one purpose-built application, and we called it SIFT because you're like sifting through the world to find what's important and surface potential prospects that could become customers. We created SIFT to help automate a lot of those manual territory planning tasks, and ultimately the theme is value selling. And where sales is moving, value selling is really the only way forward, because if you think about it, there's a lot of noise out there. There's people, since like Outreach and Sales Loft and all of these things came about, now someone might have the reach of tens of thousands of people in a month, right? So there's a lot of noise out there. So how do I grasp the prospect's attention to say, you know what, I'm going to take that meeting, right? Well, you got to do your homework, and that homework can take a lot of time. So we wanted to figure out what are the most important things to you in a prospect, and let's go out and let's find those things on from like Google News or LinkedIn Jobs or whatever it might be. And we're calling it value matches, or prospects that are showing symptoms of problems that you can solve, and then approach it that way, right? And prioritize your territory, because like that might be a really hard process to go and research all of your different prospects, everything that's happening. And let's be honest, you're not going to be able to do it, and you're going to miss a lot of low-hanging fruit. And then, like, because of it, you're going to miss deals. You got your accounts. Here's who you should focus on. Here's the contacts. Here's how you group your accounts by similarity so you can create personalized outreach. And then here's some valuable sequences that you can actually create to resonate and land the meeting. So lots of different areas of value selling that we're really hitting on there. And we feel like we're really doing it different than everyone else with some of our approaches.
You just talked about like several gaps that you uncovered during sales onboarding, during the sales process, and that really blossomed into your company today. Can you kind of walk us through how those conversations came about, what those conversations look like at the earlier stages, and like what were the most, I guess, like deepest conversations you've had to really form the business?
Yeah, so Lee, my co-founder, he was actually like the one that really wanted to dive in. He was sick of working for the man, and he wanted to start his own thing. And we were we had always been talking about like, okay, we want to start when we get that aha moment. And we're like, all right, well, what do we know? What we know is enterprise sales, right? So we're like, it started with a single use case, and it was more like the prioritization or like the power rankings of your account, like your account set or your territory. But then it really blossomed into, all right, what are other manual processes that a seller might go through? So sure, what happens when you get a territory, or maybe even a startup, you don't have a territory, so you don't even know which accounts to focus on, right? So we started there, and it was, okay, well, what does that process look like? For some junior sellers or some SDRs, they just kind of start from the biggest and work their way down. Maybe they go after the sexiest logos, like, oh, I have Nike in my territory, and I grew up loving Nike, so I'm going to call Nike. But there really are hidden symptoms of problems that these companies can solve. So we're like, all right, that's one use case. There's another, like, do we trust the data of our companies? Like, is the data about these companies stale in our CRM? So that was another fear. Another was building lists in Excel spreadsheets. How many sellers do that? That's crazy. That
all of them.
That we allow that, and that's like when someone leaves the company, that information goes with them, right? But that is just a stale cell in Excel. Try to say that 3 times fast.
Yeah.
But like, there's no research tied to it. It's hard to collaborate. So the collaboration part, we were like, oh, there might be something there, because sales and sales development, these are 2 teams that should be working very close together. They have the same goal to help like the sales development reps. They don't make money unless they find pipeline, right? And the reps, they want someone prospecting for them. But for whatever reason, these teams oftentimes hate each other, right? Oh, you called into my CIO of my top customer. How could you? Or you burned a bridge with this company. Well, like, how can we get ahead of this and align them so that the sales reps can be coaching and leading the SDR in the right direction, and more of a mentor, kind of like a pod scenario? So we wanted to create technology that could do that. And then there's sales enablement tools, which are great and have a great purpose, but they're siloed and they're separate from the applications that these people were actually prospecting in. And we wanted to take that great information that are battle cards and onboarding sales templates and all of that, and we wanted to kind of bring it in and say, all right, what is value selling at its core? Value selling is understanding the challenges that my prospects are facing and cross-referencing it with what value statements do I have to solve those challenges. And different personas will have different challenges, and different events like an acquisition or funding or layoffs or a new product launch will all have unique challenges.
Right.
So let's find a way now, fast forward to beginning of this year, generative AI becomes very mainstream, all of that. We can harness cool technologies like ChatGPT to scale this. So we're like, holy shit, we have all the research at the company. Now let's cross-reference all of this and use ChatGPT to identify challenges and then use a massive solution detail to find the appropriate and contextual relevant marketing to solve those challenges that we surface. And then we can plug those into like value sequences. But all of those processes, very manual, very time-consuming, and oftentimes won't happen without something like Sift.
You know, Austin is a very entrepreneur type of city, right? And like your story is incredibly fascinating because like what you did was incredible. I mean, you went to Oracle Informatica, you had some leadership roles, you worked with a lot of different mentors, even dating back to your college days, you faced some adversity going from safety to linebacker.
Yeah.
And, but still, you know, I think these days, a lot of people have a lot of different ideas and a lot of different passions that pop up, but they're scared to push themselves into that next level of, you know what, this is possible.
Yeah.
And like, it sounds like you found that moment when you met Lee, you met Alex, and y'all were just brainstorming, having those deep conversations. And that's exactly what I'm wanting to, you know, have the audience understand is that it's okay to have those conversations with people. And that's what creates businesses, you know?
Yeah.
And it sounds like it started with an idea, like you identified pain points, you identified problems through your job, your day job. And now you're doing what you're doing today. So I think that's incredibly inspiring.
Yeah. Yeah. And there came a point where like I was really looking myself in the mirror. I'm like, hey, there's no way you would be able to do this part-time, right? And there's that moment, do I take the leap or do I stay comfortable?
Right? All right. Yeah, that's a moment I'd like to double tap into because that moment it's occurred to me, it's occurred to other people in so many different ways. Where you know you might have tried something like for me personally, I wanted to be an actor. So after about 2 years at Oracle, I moved out to LA to pursue acting.
You got the looks for it, man.
And I don't know. Maybe the hair is there.
Yeah.
But I got to that moment where it's like, do I go all in? Like, do I give up my 5 years of experience in selling and become a bartender? But there is that moment. Like, there is that moment where it's like, do I jump all the way in the ocean and try to figure out how to swim?
Yeah. And for me, it was an easy decision. There was a couple things that made it easy. Number one, I had two people that I trust and respect very much. And they're like, hey, we're going all in. Are you coming? You know? And that was very scary for me. Number two, I was the sales leader. So how could you be the face of a company and be private? That's not possible.
Right.
Right? If you want to be the voice of the company, and like I couldn't do things like podcasts or market on LinkedIn or do anything. Mm-hmm. Right. So I was like, all right, that's another thing. And like, I really wanted to go and try something, you know, like I wanted to take my chance and not wonder what if, because like what happens, and I'm very confident that Sift will work, but you also have backup plans. What if it doesn't work? This is better than any MBA that I could ever imagine, is going and starting a business, number one. But number two, I'm selling to sales leaders who all have massive faith in me, and I could easily land that next gig.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking this at the very worst case, this is an investment in myself. And at the very best case, we exit or become a massive corporation and you're wildly rich, right? So it's like,
yeah,
how cool would that be to also do that with your best friends?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, this sounds like a really cool thing.
This sounds like an Austin, Texas podcast.
Yeah.
So Zach, I feel like your story just really encompasses the Austin, Texas community. And, people move here all the time and they have this corporate job, whether it's with a big company like Amazon or Google, and they end up spinning off that they get involved with other people. Like you met Lee, you met Alex, and y'all have that same drive, that same idea that could spin off into another company. And, I've always had this creative itch to do a podcast or create a short video or just that creative side. And I recently came to the conclusion in Chicago with a mentor of mine, Tom, where, we had a deep conversation about, what is it that you want to do and what's holding you back, right? And I think that is, in essence, what the Austin community really embraces. It's like, okay, you have an idea, and how do you go about making that idea a reality? Like, how do you jump in and really pursue that idea? Because it's scary thinking about losing your full-time gig. It's scary thinking about losing your 401k or losing your revenue stream, losing that thing. But what's so unique about Austin is so many people do it, and you definitely did it. So I'd like to better understand how you think of Austin, Texas, and if that community really played a role in what you did with your company.
Yeah, so the Austin, Texas community for entrepreneurs is a pretty good one, right? Like I actually got in touch with Tom Singer through you and one other introduction, and that led to me meeting Chris, who led to me meeting some other people, who led to me getting on podcasts, and then I met his friend on a podcast, and I was like, oh my gosh, all I did was a string of introductions and networking, and just asking people and just be fearless. Like, hey, do you want to go get a cup of coffee? And like, you just treat each other like they're a best friend, or like they're much older than you. I feel like it's a lot easier if you think of them as like your best friend's dad. That, like, I don't know why that was always my mindset, because it's someone that you still hold high respect for. And you still have that formality, but you can feel relaxed and you like really know the person, right? So like that was kind of a trick that I always did to feel like very personable and authentic. But I surrounded myself with as many entrepreneurs as I can. One of my best friends, I would say, and we've become really close as well because he also has a wife, and we're the same age and we have the same interests. But Joe Spizak, CEO of Fulfill.com, has kind of become one of my best friends. And I was just so attracted to his energy, and he's building this wildly successful business. I think so. He connects 3PLs to brands and he's like a matchmaker to help them with their shipping needs, or Fulfill.com is his company. But man, that guy, I just love his personality, and like things are always, like when you bet on someone, you're like, no matter what this guy touches, it's going to work. He's that guy. So I love surrounding myself with those type of people here in Austin, and they're everywhere, So it's like, that's like, I'm attracted to those types of people. Okay. What's the fire round? Or is that the point, is I don't know?
That's the point. That's kind of the point.
Okay.
All right, and make sure this is filming. Oh man, see, this is why Joe Rogan has Jamie.
Yeah,
because of all.
Yeah,
this
pull that up, Jamie.
yeah, Jamie, can you pull that up on the screen there? Yeah. No. The other article, Jamie.
Yeah.
The other article.
Yeah. I wonder what was on Jamie's job description when he interviewed for that role, or was he just like Joe Rogan's best friend, and he's like, hey, you want to come be my Robin to like my Batman kind of thing?
There's got to be some connection there. I'm sure we could figure that out. But it's just it's so fun watching that podcast and Rogan just saying, Jamie, can you do this for me? And
yeah, he's been a good influence on Austin, Texas, like bringing comedy here. I got like really into Dave Chappelle and some other comedy, like live shows. Like Bill Burr came here and we saw him. We saw Joe Rogan twice, and he always has incredible people open for him. But yeah, really random that like Austin's now like the center of the world for comedy.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, open mic nights, like that's something I started doing, and it's packed.
Yeah.
It's packed. You go to these open mic nights and you sign up, you got to get there a half hour early, and you might not go on for another 2 hours.
Dude, how do you get the courage to get up in front of everyone and do stand up? That's just like
it's
wild
like,
to me.
I like to compare it to doing a cold plunge.
Yeah.
You do a cold plunge and it's 3 minutes, like 3 minutes to get like the benefits is what the research is showing. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I like to compare it to. It's like you get up on stage and you have your set of 3 to 4 jokes.
Yeah.
And you're either going to be feeling it or you're just going to freeze up. And whatever happens, you know?
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. I love that you're doing that because that's
it's cool.
Yeah, no better way to like be able to go on the fly than like have to do stand-up comedy or improv or something like that, right? Where you're up in front of a ton of people.
Yeah.
Kudos to you.
No, it's been fun, and it's been pretty eye-opening, and just like meeting some of the other comics, right? That have like a different perspective on life, you know, that are doing it full time.
Very cool.
But yeah, so let's wrap this up here. This has been a lot of fun. Episode 1, wanting to wrap things up with kind of a fire round.
Fire round.
Yeah.
Pushing Limits fire round.
Yeah, going to push out some fire here and just see where it takes us. So you're about to be a dad.
Yep, 6 weeks.
Yeah, and you're part of this startup that is just like taking off. So what is the most scariest thing on your mind right now?
Yeah, I mean, I already think of my schedule and like a lot. I'm taking on average 15 to 20 customer meetings or like prospect meetings a week. So that's a lot on my plate. And then it's now let's introduce no sleep Zach and see if he can still be sharp. So that's going to be a challenge for sure. And a lot of it was going back to this weekend of Arise, like getting the right mindset and having a better perspective, like not what if, but like here I am kind of thing. So I don't know. It's all about how you approach it, and that's what. Sure, one could be really scared about something like that, but I'm actually getting kind of excited. Marion has been pregnant for a long time. It feels like 33 weeks, I think it is, or 34 weeks.
Yeah, wow.
So it's we're ready.
So okay, so from your perspective, the dating scene in Austin, Texas is pretty interesting. A lot of people complain about it. There's a lot of catfishing going on.
Really?
What is your perspective?
Well, I've been out of the dating scene since 2015. So I think like for me, I wouldn't really know. So like all I know is what I see from the outsiders. I have some friends that I met at Arise. Alex was one of them, and his roommate Alec, which I can definitely introduce you to them. They're great guys. They seem to. I think it's all like a new, because it's a new environment. They're excited about that because there's good looking people everywhere, right? So you got an opportunity to meet whoever your special someone is. You just have to have the right mindset and be open to that. I'd be the wrong person to ask, though. I haven't been on a date in a long time.
I had to ask. I find dating here just so entertaining, so interesting. The stories are just so much fun to hear.
Yeah.
About, swiping right, and all of a sudden you have to act like your dating profile. You have to impersonate the person on your dating profile. Yeah. And sometimes that's challenging, especially if you set yourself up for failure, Yeah,
I would just say like being your authentic self, and like how bad would it be if you're faking it and then maybe you don't even like the person that you're faking, but the person that you're with falls in love with that person. Now you either got to fake it for the rest of your life, or it's going to end up not working out down the road. So you might as well just be authentic up front, right?
Right. But so like hypothetically, right? Like you're on a date and the girl does not offer to split the bill. How does that make you feel?
I was always like, I was fine with paying for it, even when I was like, it's funny because when I was going on dates, we're talking like way back, it was either like 2014 or 2015. I was broke as a joke as a BDC, but I was paying for dates. So I was like, I don't know. It was just what I did.
Yeah.
I thought it was like kind of the thing to do, but I don't know. I just did it.
I would always get the Venmo handle, and on my way back to the car, I would send a Venmo request.
Okay.
Just, why not?
Yeah. Yeah, it might hurt your odds on the second date though, so maybe.
It might, but you never know.
Yeah.
So you got the startup, and I'd like to better understand your routine. Like, you talked a lot about coming out of this weekend and the retreat that you went on, but we all know, like, competing at a high level, it takes a lot out of you. So what does your routine look like when you wake up?
Yeah. I get up, I feed the dogs. As of 5 days ago or 6 days ago, I started meditating, drink my coffee. I do a couple times a week, get the Peloton in. I'm a big Pelotoner, so follow me at Zach Wright Sift.
Oh,
Sift with a Y.
That's a heavy plug right there.
Yeah, it's the same as my Twitter, same as my YouTube, Zach Wright Sift, baby. But I get on the Peloton, I'll do stretching, get my avocado toast in. This is such a random story. My most viral tweet is actually a video of me preparing avocado toast. It got like 18,000 views recently. I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
I do all this content about sales, and what you guys actually want to see is breakfast content. So it's very funny that was the case.
It's probably all the people that moved here from Los Angeles.
Yeah, sure. But then like I try to get in 1 to 2 networking events a week. That's like an organized event. I try to get 1 coffee meeting a week. And then I'm doing like 15 to 20 customer meetings. I've got a couple investor meetings a week. And when all that's said and done, I try to work out 3 times a week. And I go over to that place that you love, Squatch. On the weekends, I work out with my buddies, and we get in a cold plunge and a sauna. It sounds so like cliche of an entrepreneur to like love this kind of stuff. But I like playing football. I got a hurt back, so I got to take care of the body, mobility, and cold plunging is like a big thing for me. But yeah, that's kind of what it looks like.
What time do you have your last coffee?
Well, I'll have a morning coffee and then a 1 o'clock coffee kind of thing. And then like today, it was a long day today, so I was like, man, I can't go to Pushing Limits episode 1 and not be all jacked up. So I had a little ghost energy. That was actually what was in my cup when I showed up.
Okay.
So that's why you might have felt the limits being pushed.
Yeah, as soon as you walked in the door.
Yeah.
I was intimidated. It might have been the linebacker that was
Yeah,
just...
my linebacker was coming out. Yeah, dude.
What do you turn on TV when work's over for the day?
Oh man, there's been some really good. Apple Plus has been putting out some fire content. My wife and I, that's like we'll watch like what everybody else is watching kind of thing. I think the most recent was Silo on Apple Plus, and some others on there. Ted Lasso. Everyone like, at first I thought Ted Lasso was corny, and then I was like, at the last season, I'm like crying on one of the last episodes. I'm like,
yeah,
this is one of the best shows ever. But yeah, like those were some really good ones. Apple Plus put out some fire stuff, so shout out to you, Apple Plus.
Yeah. Okay, one more question. If you had to pick one book to recommend to anyone out there that's in business, what would you recommend? Man,
that's a good question. So there's a couple. I recently have been reading a lot of investor type books. So like you think Andreessen Horowitz is like a really big venture capital firm. Well, the Horowitz side of Andreessen Horowitz, Ben Horowitz, he wrote The Hard Thing About Hard Things, and I actually listened to it on Audible. Almost as entertaining as Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
Oh, good one.
Because he's like a hostage negotiator, and every chapter is a hostage negotiation that he did with a little lesson tied to it. But this Hard Thing About Hard Things was pretty freaking entertaining. Like he went through some really tough decisions as CEO, and he was an executive at Netscape, and then he was an executive at some other cloud companies during the .com bubble and all of that. So he went through some pretty incredible times. Like he actually did cloud hosting before it was normal, and he had all these e-commerce websites as customers, but with the .com bubble, they all went out of business, and he was trying to keep up with his forecast, and it like kind of fell apart. So he had to figure out a way to keep the business or sell it, or what is he going to do? And is he shopping around this business? And he's going to spin off something from like a product that he's using that they built internally, and they turn that into a company. Like just some of the decisions that he had to make in his thought process. And I like that he starts every chapter with a rap lyric. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, Zach, this has been fun. Episode 1, Pushing Limits podcast. Appreciate you coming on. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn just by looking at Zach Wright, and Sift AI is my company. Our website is Sift with a Y, siftai.com. And my Twitter, YouTube, and Peloton handle, if anyone cares, Zach Wright Sift.
I'm going to start following your Peloton for sure.
Okay, cool.
Keep you accountable.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I got a 6-day streak going on the meditation, and you'll see me 2 to 3 times get in a cardio session on the bike, and man, you sweat your ass off doing that. So
nice.
I need to lose some poundage before the kid comes, so that's what I'll be doing.
There you go. Well, all right, man. Appreciate your time.
Dude, good first episode.
All right, let's do it. Okay.